Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. So welcome to episode 273. Oh, I think we have a special and a good one today. We're gonna go and mix it in the lab. We got a special guest that's going to talk a little about sporting context, but it's gonna mix it in from an academic perspective. And this brother is sharp. He has a connection to HBCUs. You know what we do it, but we're going to tease that out for a little bit later in the show. So welcome to episode 273 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have Charles Bishop and we have the clinical visiting professor, A.D. Drew, in the house. So yeah, we're gonna have some fun. It's gonna be academic, but watch what we do today. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live, KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, and that's multi-Hall of Famer for you all that don't know, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas, where we're all around the world. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Well, let me get it started today, right off the bluff. I want to give a shout out to the SIAC Division II Benedict College Tigers. They brought out the brooms. SIAC Commissioner Cup takes both the men's and women's as they get done in solid fashion. So since we're talking about the conferences, guess what's going on today? SWAC Spring Meetings are today in Destin, Florida. They will discuss the normal meeting updates, locations of championship events, rules updates, and potential scheduling updates. Don't get excited. You did have the Tennessee State with their board meeting today, and I know we teased some stuff out. If it's going to happen, it's not happening today before July 1st. No update news there. A couple of weeks ago, since we're talking about conference again, we had a MEAC Spring Meetings, which took place in Orlando. They discussed the same normal things as we talked about with the potential scheduling and rules updates. One thing to keep on your mind is specifically, as Commissioner Steele referenced during the interview, is the MEAC baseball members. They're probably going to be looking at affiliate memberships, obvious Coppin State tournament champions, Delaware State regular season champions, Maryland Eastern Shore, and Norfolk State. So to me, there's two obvious conferences that you want to look at that they may be seeking partnerships. We'll see if I'm on the point in terms of doing this analysis. You got the Patriot League, which has 6 members. So you always want more than 6 to make sure you hold on to your automatic bid. And then you have the NEC, which is down from 8 to 6, as Bryant, is going to the Big South over there with A&T, or at least they're exchanging with A&T, it seems like. And then Mount St. Mary's, which is leaving also for the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. So that brings them down to 6 again. You want to stay above it. Obviously, Howard has some programs in the NEC, so it could make sense that they could consider partnering. So if I had to pick it, I'd probably say NEC. Just throwing it out there. You can test me on this later. With that, let me go to you, Professor Bishop. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, well, let's start off with CIAA, as they announced at the CIAA Media Day is set for July 19th and 20th in Roanoke, Virginia. Each of the CIAA's 12 head coaches and a returning player from each school will discuss the outlook of their respective programs and expectations for the upcoming season. So it's right around the corner, Dr. Bill. We get into July. Media days start. CIAA kicks things off July 19th and 20th. And of course, we got the SWAC Media Day, which is July 21st. So football season is right upon us.
Oh, that sounds good. Sounds good. Before I go to you, Drew, and get your update, because I want you to talk about the report you did, what I think is important. Share with that with a little bit, and so people can really make sure they tune in Sunday night. And if they haven't already, I want them to make sure they know where to go read the article about the APR, because that was great work you did in terms of breaking it down. I might even have to see if I can tease out and get y'all to look at some statistical equations, see if we can really take it to another level. We'll see how you think about that later. But just breaking news, NCAA recommends transfer portal windows, changes to infraction process, expedites outcomes, according to ESPN.com. I told y'all about the transformation, and which is a lot of reason why you don't see the Division II programs in terms of what's going on in that market. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like in terms of what's going on there. When you talk about the transformation committee, they're going to have a meeting essentially where they pass it on to the presidents to go forward a little bit, which will be in June 30th. You got to believe that they're going to approve all this. So it's going to be fascinating to see where some things are going, how they're going to go with these transfer windows. You had Todd Berry, the executive director of American Football Coaches Association, a couple of weeks ago in terms of ESPN Group. We're talking about the fact that they want to see two periods where the transfer portal will be open. That's mid-December, and another one from January and April, which could coincide with the context periods for recruiting. So it's going to be interesting. Let me get your thoughts on that, Charles. What are your thoughts on that?
Go back, because I want to mute my ears for a second, Dr. Bill. Could you mention what you were saying again?
Yeah, I was just talking about the transformation committee that met, and they released two big things out of that at this point. One is the infractions process. They want to speed that up, so they're going to make some recommendations on how to get that information up. Now, a lot of people complain that you can be in your infraction, it seems 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Somehow they're going to try to expand that out. You know, a lot of people have been complaining, at least coaches, I should say, specifically in terms of the transfer portal. Yeah. So they're looking at making a recommendation on windows that they'll do the transfer portal. So one of the things people are thinking that may come out, they didn't release this, but Todd Berry, the executive director of the American Football Coaches Association, was pushing them to consider two window dates, mid-December and April, mid-April, if you would, in regards to when students would be open to be able to transfer, which would be open dates. They wouldn't be dead periods. So it'll be interesting to see what that goes on. So kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, we knew at some point there was going to be a correction, if you will, or they were going to study how to correct some of the activity that we see in the transfer portal. And they're coming up with various recommendations to kind of slow down, the all out, I guess, transfer process of these young men, to kind of trickle it back just a little bit. So it's not surprising to hear that they were looking at how they can, curtail some of the activity with regards to the transfer portal. Great
points made on that. Let me get into Drew. I think his power went out a little bit on him, so we're going to cover for him as we always do. He wrote an article that's on the Black College Sports Network. We teased it out a little bit. But I wanted to touch on it in terms of APR and explain some things, because people are really losing their thought process on this APR. So I wanted to explain a couple of things. So you got information going a little bit in all the directions. So multiple HBCU programs excel with APR scores. Some have much to be desired. Let's take a deeper look inside the numbers at HBCUs and what they mean in terms of what that looks like. On June 14, NCAA released its latest APR report. That's the academic progress report. The report measures academic progress for all Division Ones. There's two things that people really need to understand about the APR. I'm gonna make this clean and quick. We won't get into details. We'll let AD Drew show out. I might even come on the show to give some nuanced perspectives. But essentially, you're measuring eligibility and retention. You get a point for both, but the key thing is you get 2 points because one time you look at it in the fall and one time you look at it in the spring. So if you have a student, he's eligible, you get a point. If you retain that student that they're there, you get another point. So you multiply that by the number of athletes you have per sport. And essentially, that's what happens. You lose a point if you don't retain them, they transfer and go somewhere else, you lose that point. There are some nuances and ways that you may be able to get that point back later. If they go to another 4-year, they're eligible when they go over there. You get delayed points if they graduate, those kind of fancy things. But essentially, that's what's happened there. I'm going to let Drew take it away and talk about what he decided to look at in his report, because he looked at every sport. Give us a couple, 2-3 minutes, if you would, Drew, and then tell them to make sure that they come check out the show so you can really take the deeper dive that's necessary to get into discussion, as some people are panicking about FAMU football, it seems like.
Well, let's start off with why I even put that information out there like that, because obviously I was not the first one to put out information about APR. And basically I was putting notes together for the discussion that we were going to have on Sunday. And as I started putting the numbers in on the spreadsheet, and I was like, I can't wait till Sunday. I need to go ahead and write this down and put this out and put out my thoughts about it. But I was looking at the numbers, and I was pleasantly surprised that although the HBCUs were below the national standard of 985, we did do some amazing accomplishments. There were multiple institutions with perfect 1,000 scores. Now, I didn't really point this out in the article, but to have 1,000 score on a sport, that's perfection. That means you got all of your points, not only for eligibility, but for retention over a 4-year time span, where the last 2 to 3 years have been full of transfer portal people. That's amazing when you really think about that.
That is.
The fact that you haven't lost a point to someone transferring out. You haven't lost a point to life, because life happens. People's grades fall because of life. Retention happens because of life. So just with that, and then bringing that, because everybody was either yay, we the best, or we suck, and we got to get our act together before we go on probation. And so I really decided to try to put a little bit of context to this, praise those who needed to be praised, and not call out, but draw attention to those who need some help. And taking it one step further, and I'll be brief. I want you to tune in Sunday. If you saw what Brian, Kelvin, and Kofi did last night on the ONG Strike Zone, that may be one of the most powerful hours of HBCU sports podcasting I have ever witnessed. I wish I would have been a part of it. But those three guys did this job. First started off with the APR news, and then transitioning into the athletic director search at Florida A&M University with Dr. Shante Friday Stroud, who just happens to be the dean of the school that I graduated from, School of Business and Industry at Florida A&M. But that's a sidebar. But if it's two things you got to do, you need to go back and listen to Brian, Kofi, and Kelvin on the ONG last night, and then tune in to us Sunday, because some of those things that Brian brought out on that, and Brian only touched on the surface last night of the discussion that he and I had. You saw some of my thoughts in the article, not all of them, because I've got a little bit more as I've been doing even a further dive into this. So please, mybcsn.net. The article is right there on the homepage. It's also The link to it is on our Twitter and on our Facebook account. And please, folks, don't take my word for it. I've got the links to the NCAA website where you can research your own institution and see how good, bad, and ugly your own institution is. And kudos to Jackson State for being one of those schools that did not have anybody score below 930. Same thing with Texas Southern, Dr. Cavil.
That's right. To the home. That's out to Ashley Robinson in terms of his leadership of the VP of Athletics, and now Dr. Kevin Granger.
Dr. Kevin Granger,
the Vice President of Athletics at Texas Southern University in terms of SWAC. And we'll point out some others in terms of the MEAC as well as what we refer to as the independent program. Let's get into it. We're right over it. We get into break. Great tease. We'll come back with Dr. JeMayne King. Soul food. We'll get into it. Stick with us. It's going to be a good one.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports
Tell everybody
Network.
they can follow their dreams.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong.
Go get 'em.
It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Hello? Girl, somebody hit my car today.
What? You okay?
No, girl, I'm hurt.
You better call my lawyer, Terrence Madden of T. Madden and Associates. He got me super paid after my accident.
I saw him last Sunday giving away scholarships.
833 paid 123.
I'm attorney Terrence Madden. I love getting huge checks for injured clients. Dial 833 paid 123. 833 paid 123. Offices Atlanta, Jonesboro, and Augusta.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No. 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment! Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab. We're back. We got Professor Bishop, Clinical Professor A.D. Drew, and we have the doctor, Dr. JeMayne King in the house. Dr. JeMayne Lavar King, Associate Professor of English and Literature. How many brothers out there you know that are doing it like that with a PhD, English and Literature, rocking it? Let's give them hands up for that real quick now.
Most of us don't like to read, and he went and got the degree in it.
There you go. He ain't playing with y'all. Virginia State University, CIAA in the house, CEO of Soul Food Brand LLC. I know you also have a background in Elizabeth City State, if I'm not mistaken, connected there as well. We'll let you talk a little bit about that. But essentially, among many of his talents, he is an author. We'll get a little bit into that. An educator, as you heard, an emissary of cultural change. And that's really what got me fired up. When you start to developing your own curriculum based on an academic framework and you modernize it and you get students that are excited about learning different things, that's a game changer. That's powerful, people. I'm not sure if you understand that. When we get into the fact that we seek to do a doctorate, PhD, EDD, one of the things it says about is your ability is research and designing new information, if you would, and you have the privilege to do that. And somebody actually takes that to the next level and does curriculum change. I'm not sure if y'all understand what that means. But before we get into that, Dr. King, if you allow me to use that. Tell a little bit about everybody, where you from, how you connected to HBCUs.
Well, first of all, gentlemen, thank you for having me. It's my honor to be here today. I'm from Franklin, Virginia. I am a 2000 graduate of Elizabeth City State University and a 2001 graduate of Virginia State University, and teach soul food at Johnson C. Smith. I've been connected, speaking of HBCUs, I've been connected to HBCUs since I was a child, and let me elaborate on that. I was one of the charter students in the St. Paul's College Upward Bound program in Lawrenceville, Virginia. And I probably have spent more years on that campus as I've spent probably on every campus, including Johnson C. Smith, or more. So I am born into, I was living in dorms before I was washing my own clothes. As a matter of fact, I washed my own clothes as a kid, as a high schooler, ninth grader in Lawrenceville and that. So I grew up among HBCUs. I clearly am educated by them, and I currently am educating within one. So my life has been dedicated to the historically Black college and university.
He's modest, poem writer, book writer, businessman, has his own site, that's Soul Food Brand LLC. 2017 TEDx. Y'all, some of y'all do that TED talk out there. He's done it. Sigma Tau Delta, Delta Epsilon Iota, Delta Alpha Phi Academic Honor Societies. The brother's talented. Let me go ahead and pass the mic, and then I'll come back and circle back and get some more thoughts. But let me let Charles jump in and ask the question.
Oh yeah, I wanted to, and you mentioned your background. It's funny because I have a very similar background. Like my first year of life is spent on the campus of Jackson State. Basically, like you said, you kind of grow up into the culture. But let me just start from here. Some of the exciting things that you are seeing in regards to HBCU academia or academia and athletics. Oh, do you see a sort of this, I don't know, transformation, if you will?
Well, if we go back into like the early 90s when there was that renaissance concerning the HBCU and enrollment, we're dealing with that now, and that trickles into athletics, right? And you guys have covered on your show, these recruits and top tier players who are deciding, hey, I'm going to Jackson, or I'm going to Texas Southern, or I'm going to North Carolina Central, I'm going to A&T. Players, athletes are making that decision to be a part of the HBCU universe, but at the same time, we are now, and I'm speaking beyond Virginia State University or even Johnson C. Smith University, you're starting to see exciting 21st century pedagogy that's dedicated to 21st century job opportunities. So again, look, I'm classically trained, as you all are. Okay, there's Emily Dickinson here on my bookshelf here in my home office. But in my classroom, the classes that students are coming, they're not coming to necessarily, unless perhaps they're an English major, right, to learn about the life and times of Emily Dickinson. They're looking to take courses like soul food digestible sneaker culture, or enroll in classes within our Institute of Hip Hop and Cultural Studies. They're jobs that are paying in these areas and will be. So again, when we meld the two, when we think about the new renaissance of the HBCU, that involves pedagogy and that involves athletics as well. Because again, we're seeing these players, men and women, deciding to continue their academic and collegiate careers at HBCU. So they work hand in hand, the academic side and of course the athletics, which a lot of times people think they contradict each other, or they're working hand in hand.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah.
Clinical Professor Drew, go ahead. Follow up.
All right, got a question. I'm gonna ask a quick follow up after you explain this to me. I'm reading your. I can't talk right now. I'm in front of an English professor. I can't talk. How ironic.
Me every day outside of a classroom. But go ahead.
All right. Reading your bio, it said King is the creator of the world's first English course dedicated to sneaker culture literature. Please explain what sneaker culture literature is for me, and let's break it down into layman's terms for me.
Absolutely. Listen, you're speaking my language. So sneaker culture literature, of course, we have texts that are dedicated to sneaker culture. I wrote about this as being capital S sneaker culture and lowercase s sneaker culture. You're like, okay, what's that? Okay, there are texts, for example, Bobito Garcia's Where Did You Get Those? Is considered to be the apex text dedicated to sneaker culture. It's an example of capital S sneaker culture literature, okay? And then you have books. If you go on Amazon and walk into a bookstore, you'll have books that'll be like the top 200 hype beast sneakers of all time, right? And when you open that book, it'll be a bunch of pictures, right? Someone who's selling a book to someone who can't afford the sneakers. It doesn't necessarily talk about the precepts associated with sneaker culture, the rules, the culture itself. It's just a bunch of pictures, like a picture book. So sneaker culture literature is more than just text. For example, if you all remember Gangstar's Just to Get a Rep, okay? In the video Gangstar's Just to Get a Rep, one of the opening scene of images in that video is a Ewing Athletic 33 high, the black and white, and the guy stepping on glass, okay? For a lot of people who are fans of Ewing Athletic or fans of the 33 high, that image is burned in their mind. So the literature includes media associated with the art, with the study, and also the commercials, TV shows. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, from my memory, the shoe he wore the most in that show was the Nike Air Force, not the Air Force One, but the Nike Air Force, okay? With a bunch of other sneakers. Other people associate him with a bunch of Jordans, Jordan 5, this and that, because that's what the media is pushing. But all those things are examples of sneaker culture literature. You have actual texts, some legitimate texts who are talking about what entails a culture, how it started, the history, where it is now. And then you have those other texts who are just trying to ride the wave, and they're picture books, okay? But the commercials, you probably can remember 3 or 4 commercials off the top of your dome in your life associated to a particular sneaker. That all is considered sneaker culture literature.
I see Charles looks like he wants to jump in on my follow-up. So I'm going to yield my follow-up to Charles and save mine for a little bit later.
I'm curious. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to sneeze out because the followers in here. Lonnie Shaw, E.E. Smith, great running back. Alan Cole, Lieutenant Johnson C. Smith. Lennon Blows, as your guest said, he's from Franklin, Virginia. My father's side of the family is from Franklin. So you got folks, as we talk about this culture, HBCU connection, one of the things I wrote about in literature, which made this so fascinating to me, is just how interconnected these things are. And when you use it in the course, lecture, and classroom, how it can take things to the next level. But let me let Charles follow up with a question.
I've always wanted to ask this question in regards to sneaker culture. I grew up playing baseball, and I always felt baseball was an inherent disadvantage as it relates to sneaker culture, because every sport has to sort of yield that huge market share, I think, to basketball. And I was always curious, how did the sort of history of this love affair with sneakers, how did it evolve? Because it just seems as though, as much of a baseball fan as I was, nobody was putting on cleats. And I had a pair of cleats that I was in love with, but they're cleats. So I was always curious, how does, these other sports stack and compare towards basketball?
Well, if we think about sneaker culture as we know it now, and as it was, because we can go back to the 1860s with sneaker culture. But here's the thing: if you remember Lou Brock had a signature sneaker. Okay, yeah. What did it look like? Well, it looked like shoes at the time, canvas base, similar to a PF Flyer or a Converse Chuck Taylor All Star, but Kurt Flood had his, Lou Brock had his own, I was 2 Cardinals in my mind. Lou Brock had his own signature shoe. Now, here's the thing about baseball, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, as opposed to sneaker culture and other sports. When we think about baseball, first of all, it's very expensive to play, right? And at that time, most shoes were for utility, and people bought them for utility. So as you mentioned with spikes, with baseball spikes, a lot of households, like, okay, you're not getting sneakers and that, so you got to make a choice, which probably led to African Americans not as much playing baseball because of things of that nature, because of economics. With sneaker culture in Major League Baseball, or baseball period, we got to think about two major players, and I always mention this in my class. If you all remember Hideo Nomo, okay? Mm-hmm. Hideo Nomo, when he came in, was similar to Fernando Mania back in the early 80s, right? This guy was a phenom, young guy pitching for the Dodgers. Nike gave him a signature shoe. And normally I don't do this, but I'm going to do it today. Probably one of the ugliest things I've ever seen in my life, okay? Mm. When I was in college at Elizabeth City State University, I remember going to work one day at Hibbett Sports, and his shoe retailed, it was an Air Max here. The Nike Air Nomo was an Air Max, okay? It retailed for somewhere around $130, $140. I walked into work one day as a broke college student. This shoe was on the wall for $9.97. You may be thinking, like, why are you mentioning the price? Let me mention this. If the price ended in a 7, that meant that we couldn't use our discount on it, right? We could only use our discount on shoes that ended in 0.98, like something that was $69.98. I walked in, saw the shoe was $9.97, and was like, yeah, that's too much. And walked to the back and clocked in.
And what are you worth $10?
Yeah, I'm like, I can't do it. But what's funny is that, and I got to mention this too, about 10, 15 years after that, Nike re-released the Air Nomo again, changed the name so they wouldn't have to pay him, call it the Air NN, made it urban colors, like bright urban colors, and he sold it well 15 years after that. But to answer your question, economics have a lot to do with why sneaker culture is now starting to leak into modern baseball because they're trying to extract minorities, right? But sneaker culture in baseball, we think of two major players, Hideo Nomo, and we all know who I'm going to next, the swingman himself, King Griffey Jr.
King Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
Great one. Well, we're going to take a break here, but before we do that, King's first poem, Richard Morgan Flyer, published in 2002, I should say, followed by the book Soul Food, Digestible Sneaker Culture. Make sure you check that out. Life Within the Dorm and other college-related poems. Managing Relationship, Bridging Communication Divide. 21st Dates, the Poetic Mixtape. Oh, I love that. And before the show, we got a little bit about this. The New York Mets and popular culture. Oh, man. We can have a show on that itself. The souls of Black folks, African-American sneaker culture and its fluids in literature, film, television, sports, studies, and music. So you see we're really mixing it all up. After we come back from this break, we're going to get in and release the mid-major polls. We'd love to keep you around since you're familiar with that and see what you think about this poll as we release it today. We did on Tuesday, we did the FCS division, but now we got a special. We're doing mid-major, which is Division II and NIA. We like to mix it up there, give them their own prime. And when we do that, before we get into that poll release, on the other side, I want to talk about, at least tell them a little bit about how long it takes and what you put in to developing a curriculum, as you talked about in terms of sneaker culture from that perspective. Stick with us. We'll be right back at this break. I hope you're enjoying this great conversation as we have Dr. JeMayne King in here, and he's going to mix it up and give us his thoughts on this poll release. He's brand new to this, has not seen it, just like these gentlemen. So we're going to get it raw and real, as we say in the mixtape. We're going to take this to popular culture, soul food brand, LLC. We'll see what it brings. We're going to see what he do. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break. Great job.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
The new GMC Sierra with hands-free driving offers the most advanced and luxurious pickup in its class. Yeah, it rocks.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, trying to get down.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop, Clinical Professor True, and Dr. JeMayne King, yes, author, educator, just Mr. Talent as it would be. Now he gonna see if he can get onto the other side as we gonna release the mid-major poll today. I'm excited. Pre-season. We're gonna get some love to Division II and NAIA and see what kind of talent this brother got. He say he can do it all, so we gonna see when we sneak in a little bit of that sneaker culture to the gridiron. We're gonna see what it's going. But before we do that, seriously, I did want to ask you about the time it took and what it was like and some of the things that you had to put in when you start developing a curriculum, a course, if you would, in terms of taking old literature, original literature, and mixing in the new literature, new books, modern content. Talk about that for a little bit, if you would.
Certainly. I want to take you back to 2014. It was in a faculty meeting at Johnson C. Smith, department meeting, so to speak, in Johnson C. Smith. And I was sitting there. The chair at the time said, hey, Dr. Matthew DeForce, a visionary, okay? I have to shout him out, a visionary. He asked us, does anyone have any new ideas for a new course, for new courses? And I was just sitting there, like, watching my watch, because I'm thinking, nothing I say, you all are not going to understand it. So I'm just going to just sit here. And then he asked again, and nobody said anything. And then he said, hey, JeMayne, do you have any innovative ideas for a course? And I mentioned soul food. Yeah, right. And I mentioned soul food, and I purposely named it for my book, right? Thinking foresight. And he asked me, he was like, how soon can you get me a syllabus? And I was like, 30 minutes. So 30 minutes after the meeting, I literally gave him the first shell that would be soul food, digestible sneaker culture. And as far as putting, that part was easy because I've lived in my life, right? That part, like, so we have the classically trained part, the stuff I've sat in classes and learned for years. And then we have the life I lived for years. So it was like peanut butter and chocolate. So it didn't take long to actually put the curriculum together because I was already reading this stuff before it was considered to be academic. It was just like literally being in the right place at the right time and being prepared. Building the Institute of Hip Hop and Cultural Studies at Virginia State is a little bit more intensive, right? Because there's more classes, a lot of more bells and whistles, checks and balances, but it's essentially the same thing. We're talking about the duality. We talk about double consciousness. When we think about this, we're two, right? How we are in African Americans. So think of me, JeMayne, the professional, and then think of JeMayne himself. So I live, when I leave the house, I'm JeMayne, but I'm in my professional mode. When I come up there, some people may argue he's the same dude, right? But here's the point. I literally took my individual self and my professional self and put them on camera. So that's the answer. That's how it all came about.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. I'm glad you shared that. Well, let's get into it.
Hold up, Doc, before we do that.
Oh, did he find them? Did he find
the Nomos?
Nice. Great job. Great job. I appreciate
What color?
that.
What color? I can't see. Which color is that? The blue one?
It's the white.
The white one.
That's the blue one that he's got on. Looks like a blue one that he's got on
Yeah,
that
it's blue 'cause
picture.
it's matching his jersey.
And this is the re-release right here.
The white with the black trim.
What was beautiful about the second go around is that the youngsters didn't know that was a $10 shoe on the shelves. They saw it in Foot Locker.
Wow.
Like, let's cop that. And I'm looking at them like, man, it's like, hold on, make this quick analogy.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a problem on a college campus with the students, all you have to do is wait 4 years because those students will move on. And it works a lot that way in marketing as well. If something's not popping in, let's hold on to it. We'll re-release it. They won't know it went hot. So, yeah, and that's what happened with the Air Max Nomo, later the Air Max N/M. That's exactly what happened with that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring you into one of them sports marketing class or one of my graduate sports history classes to talk about the interaction between
I would love it.
The sneaker. Yeah, we're gonna do that. All right, getting in here, receiving votes. Virginia State Trojans 3-6, 3-4. It's all about that, Doc. But y'all got my man. Now people realize he's Dr. Henry Frazier, the third coach previously of Bowie State, obviously, as you know, Prairie View, where he won a championship. So we all are always excited. And where he earned his doctorate, PhD over there at Prairie View, I should say. But then I had to go to his dissertation defense.
Oh, wow.
Benedict Tigers 5-5, 2-4. Yeah, I'm really about it. I push Lane Dragons 6-4, 3-3. Those are ones that are receiving vote. Let's get in this top 10. The Tuskegee Golden Tigers coach transfers over from Miles College to Tuskegee. 3-8. Got a lot of work to do, but I got them sneaking in the top 10. I believe in it. At number 9, Shaw Bears 6-4, 5-2. SIAC, CIAA respectively. Number 8, Miles Golden Bears. I think he left a lot of talent there. 6-5, 5-3, 22 points. Brings us to number 7, Savannah State Tigers, 8-2, 5-1. Very talented team, but they changed coach, and I'm concerned about the change and how those kids will react to it. I'm going to be interested to see do they show me wrong on this. At number 6, as we finished up, the bottom 5 is Kentucky State Thoroughbreds, 7-4, 4-2. Talented team returns running the ball, and they do it in such a different way. They're going to get their wins. Is it going to be enough where they can get out of the West Division of SIAC and play for a championship? I'm not so sure there. That's the bottom 5. Let's go around and see what everybody thinks. Starting with you, Charles, since you got that funny look on your face. What's the problem?
I was looking for Virginia State to be a little higher, to be at least to start off the season at least 10. I'm not sure what
3-6, man. Come on, make miracles.
Point taken. Tuskegee.
I guess they threw it too, so.
Exactly. And I know my good friend Carla Woodlock is gonna kill me for that one, but I gotta call it like I see it on that.
I know my boy down there in Jackson that follows Jackson State Lane Dragons running back there 6-4, 3-3. He's like, man, Lane can't get no love. Let me go to you, Drew. What do you think of those receiving votes in the bottom 5 teams?
I gotta agree. Lane can't get any love. You thought I was gonna start Tuskegee, didn't you? You Dr. Cavil, your posters do realize Lane College is the only school in the SIAC West that has its coach return. Just want you to keep that in mind. The other schools in the SIAC West, unless they move Morehouse over to the West, have new coaches. Tuskegee, where is the roughing effect going to be the most prevalent?
When does it kick in?
At the school that he left, or the school that he is currently at? That's going to be the question with Tuskegee. Kentucky State, I just can't see it. They had a quote unquote Mickey Mouse offense under Charlie Jackson. With him leaving, does that offense stay the same, or do they go back and try to run more of a spread offense, which they probably do not have the personnel to do? So I think it's going to be a little bit of identity crisis at Kentucky State. So I see Kentucky State dropping down and let's move Lane in.
Wait, Kentucky State ain't running the option no more?
Well, the head coach is gone. So now, new coach, new system. Everybody wants to run their system. That was a system that he figured out he needed to run with that team. Will the new coach stay with that? Or will the new coach try to do what everybody else is doing, try to be like the Joneses, even though he's a thoroughbred?
I ain't never got nothing bad to say about Kentucky State or the option, ever.
So let's let you in on this, Professor King. Charles Bishop, undergrad at Jackson State, and they played in Circle City a couple when Kentucky State got it done.
Pre-Deion.
Pretty much probably why Deion is there, to be honest with you. He's done his graduate studies at Texas Southern University, MS in Sports Studies, Sports Leadership, now in the curriculum instruction. He is one of the first students that is in a new program where we have curriculum instruction with a concentration in sports education. So excited about that. Professor Drew over here, Tuskegee and FAMU Rattlers. So that's where you got a lot of that mix and natural talking here. But we're gonna take it back to your world, CIAA. What do you think about the poll so far?
So, and this is going to sound like I'm being a homer because I'm a Trojan, pretty much born into it, and also brought me back, right? I'm family.
Hey, man, you're a guest on the show. You can do what you want. Come on.
Okay. So let me say this. That 3 and 6 is atrocious. There's no way. Look, let me say this. There's no way, even in a season of transition, okay? We have enough horses back on defense to keep us from losing that many games. Just a week ago, I was in a meeting. We're developing something that's wrapped around the football season, and we were looking at the schedule. And that was my first time taking a look at the schedule. I'm like, oh man, the home games. I'm like, we got some. There's no cupcakes this season, okay? And we don't. If I remember correctly, we don't have as many home games as road. But let me say this: Bowie's going to be weaker. Bowie's going to be weaker. Virginia Union is Virginia Union. We should. I'm thinking, and hold me to this. Hold me to task.
We'll bring you back.
Yeah, I'm predicting that we are flipping the schedule. So if that poll says 3 and 6. I'm saying 6 and 3.
At least.
There's one game I'm concerned about there, but I'm not going to verbally put that out there because words become things. But I'm predicting 3 and 6.
English professor in literature. Look at it. Don't even put it out. Don't even put it out. There you go.
Now, let me put this in too as well. Even though we haven't yet, because I have a love affair with a particular school in the CIAA in the South. I just love their brand of football. It's like when I watch them play, it's like when I was a kid watching the Knicks. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I love watching them because it was like free basketball, right? And I knew I was going to enjoy it. I want to speak on it when we get to it. There's a team in the CIAA South that is my personal New York Knicks for CIAA football. And I know he's probably listening. He knew who I'm talking about. But we'll get to that. But I think the South is up for grabs, so that's into this 3 and 6. This 3 and 6 becoming 6 and 3. We'll get there.
Let's see if that team is in the top 5. We'll take this last break. We're gonna come back. We'll get into the fourth quarter. No, it's not basketball. No, it's not baseball with the 7th inning stretch. But we're gonna put up the 4 because we talking about football already preseason, and we got the professors in the house breaking down the poll rankings. They didn't treat me too bad. So I'm going to let them come back. I'm not going to turn off their mic. We'll be right back at this last segment. Let's look at the top 5 and see who's in the top 5 and see if that CIAA team in the Southeast reference, do they get some love? Do they get in the top 5? Or am I just way off? Let's see. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready, because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Don't worry, Ma. We'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
They're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Press the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, yeah, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Dr. Cavil's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're back with the professors. Top 5 from the mid-major division. We got somebody that says that Fayetteville State should be number 1. Some people think Bowie State should be number 1. Langston, y'all forgot about them. Should they be number 1? Well, let's see who's going to be number 1. We know who number 5 is. Let's start with number 5. We have Virginia Union Panthers 6-4, 5-2. Give you a little tease there if you think you got it. At number 4, those Bulldogs, Bowie State, I think losing the head coach, defensive coordinator. We just heard all conference player transferred to Southern. Another
Dimitri Morcell.
Southern. You got a couple of going over to Morgan State. Man, Bowie State's gonna be strong, but they lose, as you said, Professor King, Dr. King, they lose quite a bit. So it's gonna be interesting to see, can they hold on to that magic? I think they'll be talented. They'll get by most folks, but I'm not sure it's gonna be enough to win the Northern Division. Bringing us to number 3. This team is out of the South, so I wonder if this is who you're referencing. We'll see. Fayetteville State Broncos 8-2, 7-0. Did they get a chance to finally get over the hump and get it done? Or down there with the Shaw Bears? Or is it somebody else off the radar getting in? At number 2, Langston Lions, Owls, the Sooner Athletic Conference, NAIA. People forget about them. Yeah, they had a late season fall, but this team is talented. What you forgot about is they were young when they started off undefeated and getting all those wins and getting it done in the conference. And I think you've got to them as long season they weren't used to playing. But you better know coaches don't have them out there working now, and they're going to be solid. So watch out for the Langston Lions this year. And number 1, Albany Stoke, Golden Rams, and that should be Albany, as Mike would say. Golden Rams, they're number 1, 10-2, 6-0. Coach coming back, got a lot of talent coming back. Yeah, they lose a couple of key pieces, but I think this is a team that wants to not only win the conference, get in the playoffs, and they want to see if they can go what Bowie State did last year, a couple of rounds, and maybe go deeper. So this is a team I say keep your eyes on to see if they will relinquish that number 1 spot all season long. Let me start from the end in mind. I'm going to start with you, Dr. King. Professors in the building. Tell me what you think about my top 5. You got a problem, or are you going to be able to come back, or do I have to shut your mic off?
Well, I don't necessarily have a problem with the top 5 per se, but I will say
Thank you. You good now. You can break it down and say what you want to say.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't. But I want to say this. a bigger baseball reference. You know, Kershaw with the Dodgers, how every year the Dodgers go deep into the playoffs, and then every year they would lay an egg and they finally won one in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Fayetteville State at number 3. I'm like, man, I know the South is a weaker division of the two in the North and South in the CIAA, but I'm like, man, every year Charlie Brown goes to kick that football, and every year Lucy pulls it back. I don't. Now this is gonna sound wild until we get to the season. Ride with me for 1 second.
He just used the reference.
This year, Shaw is the football team who I love to watch play because every year they pick up something, get closer every year. I do not see Shaw being the bridesmaid to Fayetteville State this year. I just don't see it. If it happens,
real. I can see it.
This is Shaw's opportunity.
At some point, they got to get over the hump. But people will say that about Fayetteville State. They get over it. I like that.
Yeah.
I like
and
that.
one more thing, even though we haven't mentioned them, Winston-Salem State is all they're the rich. They got the belt or not, they're gonna be close to the main event or they're gonna be in the main event. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them mess up somebody's season, but I don't think it's gonna be Shaw. So as far as your top 5, I don't have a problem with it. But I'm from Missouri on this. Fayetteville got to show me something. I'm from Franklin, Virginia, but I'm from Missouri when it comes to Fayetteville State. They got to show me something because I ain't seen Jack.
Ooh, I like those takes. Somebody asked, what is the @ in front of Bowie State? That represents that they were 2-time, actually, but certainly 2021 HBCU football mid-major division national champions. So they won the championship last year and got the box of cigars as we had the coach on and unveiled that he was a winner last year. So fascinating. As you know by now, Coach Wilson, Damon Wilson, has moved over to Morgan State. So that's going to be something to watch out for. So excited for him. Obviously understand Bowie State, his alma mater, going to be concerned. But they turn it over to somebody that's win that staff, and they've been able to do that, Bowie. One thing that I think we may need to recognize the fact that they are able to put it in different folks' hands, and they know a culture around there for the Bulldogs that tells me something that they're going to at least keep it close and make it interesting. Let me go to you, Professor Drew, before I go to Charles last, since we're going in reverse order. What do you think about my top 5? Are you happy, or are you going to challenge me? What's the deal?
I'm going to tell Dr. King, I was born and raised in the Show Me State, St. Louis to be specific. So just had to throw that out there. And Bowie is going to have to show me something. The one thing that I've noticed, and I haven't been following their transfers as close as I maybe should, but I don't think they've lost any transfers on the offensive side of the ball. Looks like all the transfers that I've seen going to other schools have been on the defensive side of the ball. So with an experienced quarterback and a coach moving up the ranks at Bowie, offensively, I think they're going to be fine. The question is, will they be able to stop anyone? I think not. So I dropped Bowie State out of the top 5, and I'm digging down. I'm moving Shaw all the way up into the top 5. I kind of concur with Dr. King right there. My last point before I turn it over to Charles. David Wilson got a job. Reginald Ruffin got a job. 2 of the hottest coaches in mid-major. So the only coach that's left out there is Coach Quentin Morgan for your number 2 Langston Lions. Another successful season like he's had for the past 3 to 4 years. So some opportunities are going to come knocking at his door.
Great point. I want to shout out Anton Sewell, the defensive coordinator. He's moved up to the FCS level at Alabama State. One of the reasons I had him in the top 10, you asked that question. That brother is talented on the defensive side. Watch out for him. He's going to have himself in a position to look at a head coaching job. He's been knocking on that door, especially if a couple of these FCS coaches that some people say already on the hot seat, depending on what happens early in the season. Some things might fall away and open up. It'll be interesting to see will people decide to go in that direction. With that being said, Let me go to Charles. See what he says about my top 5. That's my boy, so I know he ain't got wet. Maybe not. Sometimes.
Well, you know what? I will say good call on Langston, because I'm always looking at the SIAC and the CIAA, and I forget Langston, how great they are, and how often we mention Quentin Morgan's name with any job opening that comes up. He's a superstar coach. He's coaching waiting for somebody in the SWAC or somebody in MEAC or whatever the case might be. But he is one of the best coaches that we've seen come across in quite a few years. I think the drama, becomes who takes over the throne in the CIAA North, because I do expect Bowie State to fall back. I think we talked about culture the other day. Question for me is, did Coach Wilson do enough to build up this culture that's at Bowie State for it to sustain itself now that he's gone? So, and I think they lost some pieces on the defensive side of the ball. That was a huge pickup of the Southern Jaguars, pick up Dimitri Morcell in transfer portal, CIAA Defensive Player of the Year. So that was a huge pickup for them. Question comes down to Shaw and Fayetteville State. We've seen them now. I don't know how many weddings they've been to with the bridesmaid dress on, but somebody has to put that wedding gown on, and I'm saying it's going to be Fayetteville State.
So they caught the bouquet, in other words?
Yeah, they've been catching bouquet for a second or two.
Oh, man, y'all ain't right. So Albany State starts off on the top of the mountain. We'll see if they can hold on to it, or we'll try to knock them off. In terms of what's going on there, when you talk about Quentin Morgan, he reminds me a lot of Dan's. Quietly just gets it done, and then when he gets his shot, everybody was surprised just how tough Valley is, and people are questioning if you're not careful, they're gonna beat up on some folks this year. Taking your head on the swivel in another direction. So I agree with you. Great point when you talk about that in a lot of ways. Before we get out of here, I'd be remiss if we didn't give Dr. JeMayne King a chance to talk about his website where you can go get the book. I've already ordered the book. The only thing that was stopping me earlier, I was trying to see if there's a hardback version. If not, I'm going to get it. So let me know, because I need you to sign it, because I'm going straight to the website. Also, as you see, I don't really wear caps anymore, but I love the cap you got there, so I'm going to get the cap anyway. And then I want the shirt. So tell other folks, if they're interested, to go check out some of the products you got. And people don't realize you got the belt that at Virginia State that is actually something they acknowledge that I think is big, where the king is going to be recognized and get to actually carry the belt. I think that's big time. You can get that if you Virginia State alums fans out there. You can get your own belt if you want it. And just talking about those that want to support a brother getting it done, tell them how they can get information on your website.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. Thank you for the support in advance. SoulFoodBrand.com, licensed licensed NCAA apparel, and also garments that support hip hop culture and street culture. Licensed right now for Winston-Salem State, Elizabeth City State, Virginia State. Got a licensing exclusive deal with Johnson C. Smith, and I mentioned Virginia State because you mentioned the championship. This is actually made to professional. This is actually better than a TV belt. Okay, we're talking 6mm stick plate. Mr. Trojan, it is now part of the. I have to listen. You mentioned that, my eyes lit up. This is now official championship of the university. Mr. Trojan. This championship is passed down to Mr. Trojan yearly. So I can't. I have one for myself. But if anyone would like one, they can order this and other fine goods, licensed apparel, from SoulFoodBrand.com, including the text. And like I said, I just shipped out a Elizabeth City State baseball batting practice jersey earlier today. So again,
nice.
These for your perusal and for your when you go out, look, you order them, I get them out the same day. We don't play around here.
There you go. And that's Soul Food, SOLE, like the tennis shoe, the soul of the shoe. Not just soul food. Make sure you understand. That's a different one. We're talking about SOLE. So thank you for listening to Inside HBCU. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. Mike is out on assignment, but we have AD Drew. And I hope you enjoyed our guest. That's Dr. JeMayne King, Soul Food. Make sure you check him out. in terms of what he has in store for you. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday right here, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Drew?
Lecture.
And Dr. JeMayne King, I'm going to hit you up on this. You know, at the end of the class, you say dismiss. You can say that now. Go ahead. That's our last slogan. Course lecture dismiss. So, Dr. King?
Dismiss.